Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back. Today's daf is CHULLIN Daf Nun Tes. We begin right on the top line. Continuing on the topic of very sharp foods. Amar Rabbi Yehuda. Hayman da'ochel. If a fellow sits down to eat, tlasa, 3 amounts. Tikli, so that these are weights. Of chiltis, 3 shkolim, certain kind of a weight of the chiltis. Rashi says in Shabbos, mishgal shleisha zehuvim. Okay, so 3 coins, so 3 coin weights, basically a big amount. Okay, a big amount of this sharp food, this chiltis that we discussed yesterday, which can really heat up a person and trigger a real serious fever. And he eats it aliba reikana, on an empty stomach, no less. Mishtalach mishmashche, his skin will just dry up and shed. So it's a bit too much. Amar abavo, b'didi ava uvda. I myself personally experienced a similar thing. I ate just 1 amount, va'ach lechad tikla, one of the, let's say, 1 pound, whatever, 1, instead of 3, I only ate 1 of the chiltisa, and it almost undid me. If not for me jumping straight into the water and sitting there to cool myself off, my skin would have just shed, and due to the fact that I was aware that I had this information, I saved myself. So I applied it on myself. Ha-chochma, wisdom, knowledge, can protect a person. Techaya b'aleh, gives life to its owner, to its... Amar Rabbi Yosef, Hayman da'achel shitzri bi. Okay, here comes another bit of an extreme diet. So a person eats shitzri bi, 16 eggs, okay, to start off, v'arboi amagoizim, 40 nuts, walnuts, v'shev, and 7 seeds of a tzlaf tree, but v'shev butisa, 7 seeds, the parchi of the tzlaf tree. We're not done. V'shasar v'yasa the duvsha, plus a revius of honey, and he does it in the heat of summer, but kufas tamid, aliba l'rkana, no less on an empty stomach. Shoo, misakar talya, the connection of the levi of his heart will get uprooted, meaning it'll be very detrimental to his heart. A little bit too much to endure. Ahu bar tavya. Okay, there was a story about this young deer. The Asalabei Reish Galusa arrived at the Reish Galusa's household. Mafsuk karan. So its hind legs were detached, were cut off. Basraisa, the hind leg were cut off. Batke Rab B'Tamesagid. So Rab says, okay, missing legs, but as long as it's Tamesagid, the cluster of nerves, sinews are still intact, you're okay. So he checked those. Actually, since they were there, he allowed the animal. Savar l'meichel meni b'umtza. He figured, okay, I'll have a piece of the basar, b'umtza, lightly roasted. Amalei Shmuel. So Shmuel turned to Rab. He says, okay, I understand it's not a treifa. You've confirmed that, but what about health concerns? Lechayish mar. Are you not concerned, l'nikuri? Perhaps the reason for this strange hind leg phenomena is that perhaps the animal had been struck by a snake, in which case the venom content can endanger the person eating it. So maybe his condition is due to that type of encounter. Amalei, so Rav tells Shmuel, my takanta. Okay, so how do we proceed? So he says, noisve b'tanura. Stick it into the oven for a proper roast, and then you'll see if in fact it's healthy meat or not. So the material itself would self-inspect, meaning you'll see, okay, oisvei, so you put it in the oven, and he sees as it heats up, nafal tilchi, it's coming apart, pieces, disintegrating, due to the acidic, venom content. And he knew that he was just saved from eating something poisonous. Kari Shmuel alei the Rav, so Shmuel exclaimed on Rav, wow, Hashem saved a tzaddik from pitfall, from Sakana lo yu'una l'tzadik al-oven. No misfortune reaches a tzaddik. Kari Rav the Shmuel, and Shmuel in Rav, in turn, in appreciation of Shmuel, coming and saving him with his wisdom, with his insight, applied to him the pasuk in Doniel. Kol Ras, any secret, loy anasli, is not missing from him, meaning Shmuel, the great Chacham, Baruch Hashem, he had this great insight to save my life. Continues the Mishnah. Now we take a little shift. We've concluded the Treifa Sugya. Now we shift to the Simanim. What are the kosher signs? By the behema, by the chaya, the birds, the fish, grasshoppers. Says the Mishnah, Simanim behema v'chaya never not Torah. Regarding behemoths and chayas, behemoths are the more domesticated varieties, chayas are the more less domesticated types of beasts. So the kosher signs on these, we all know from the Torah, right? Split hooves and malager, choose its cut. Simona be'ema v'chaya, never min Torah. That's pretty straightforward. What about birds? So interestingly, the Torah does give us a list, a comprehensive list of non-kosher birds, 24 in total, but there is no specific delineation in terms of what constitutes a kosher bird and what doesn't. We have to surmise, based on the characteristics that we observe in those birds, and we deduce that that they represent the non-kosher species, in which case now we know what's considered kosher. So the exact simanim of a kosher bird was not really specified in the Torah. Aval amru chacham, but based on observation, Chachamim concluded as follows: there are a total of 4 signs which determine the kashrus by a bird. Number 1, koloif hadoiris, tummy, a bird which snatches its prey off the ground. That's tummy. Perhaps that's indicative of aggression, of a more violent nature. You know, the Svarim Hagdashim speak about the fact that, in general, all the kosher materials come from a more kosher source, of more kosher spiritual source, whereas the non-kosher materials, animals, birds, fish, are sourced in the opposing powers of tumah, unclean powers. Hence, they are tummy as well. And that's why we're instructed by the Torah to ingest only kosher materials, which in turn will help us, right? Rise in our spiritual quest, right? V'skadishtem v'isem kedoshim, right? So a bird which snatches its prey, tummy. On the other hand, what are the kosher signs of a bird? Kol sheyesh le etzba yisera, a bird which has an extra finger down at the bottom of his leg. V'zefek, so it's like a sort of an added finger sticking up. V'zefek, he has this part of the digestive system called the zefek, the crop. V'kur kavane niklav, and his gizzard, which is further into the digestive system, can peel. So the layers peel, come apart. So if he has these simanim, kur kavane niklav, he's tar. Okay, so bottom line, a bird which exhibits the simana tahara, he's not a doris, he has the extra finger, has the zefek, etc., he's tar. And later we're going to see in the Gemara, actually, you don't need all 4 to be tar. Even if you exhibit just one siman, you're tar, provided you're not one of those 24 exceptions, the non-kosher birds listed in the Torah. I'll give you another sign. A bird which splits its legs, so if it sits on like a wire, 2 fingers on either side, that's also a simon that he's tummy. Ubachagav, what about grasshoppers? Which even today the Sfaradim eat. Those that have a Masorah identify the specific grasshoppers that were eaten throughout the generations. They go ahead and eat this, provided it conforms to the signs discussed in the Mishnah. B'chagavim, regarding grasshoppers. Kol sheyesh le arba raglayim, if he has 4 legs, v'arba knafayim, and 4 wings, v'kartzulayim, and 2 longer front legs, which facilitate his jumping. Uknafav chayfines ruba, and his wings covered the majority of his body. Rabbi Yisrael Omer, one more condition, Ushmoi Chagav, provided that he's called Chagav. He's part of the Chagav, family. Interestingly, Reb Chaim Kanievsky Shlita, when he was authoring his sefer on grasshoppers, called Karnei Chagavim, very apropos, and he had some sort of something that he had to figure out, some feature, some sort of characteristic that we find on the grasshopper, and he was trying to get a clarity on it, and suddenly, out of the blue, this grasshopper lands on his windowsill right in front of him. And all he needed to do is take a look and observe the grasshopper from up close, and he got the clarity that he needed, and he continued back to his sefer. Unbelievable siyata d'shmaya. It's a well-known story of a person who is immersed in Torah, and he gets special heavenly assistance min hashamayim. Just suddenly, the exact grasshopper that he was looking for, that he needed to see, came flying over, got a first-hand view. Goodbye. He left on his merry way. Okay, regarding fish, ubedogim, what are the signs of kosher fish? Okay, again, that's in the Torah, right? The fins and the scales. Kol sheyesh lo snapper has the fin, kaskasas, and the scales. Rabbi Omer, it's 2 in 1. Shnei kaskasim snapper echad. He only needs to have 2 scales, and one fin is enough. Velun kaskasim. How do you define the kaskasim? What are they? Hakvun boy, those are flush to the skin, attached to the skin like a fingernail, right? Like the scales on the skin. Usnapirim, what are they? Haparech mehen, the fins that he uses to navigate through the water. Tanu Rabbanan. Elu hein simanei behema. So these are the following are considered the simanim, kosher signs of a behema, right? As we have in the pasuk, called behema mafrasas parsa, an animal with fully split hooves, and the pasuk continues, V'shesha shesa shtei proses, mala skera, right? Regurgitates its food, chooses cud for another, does another grind on his ingested food. So these are 2 kosher signs. That's the pasuk. So Raisa continues, Kol behema shemalas gera. You should know an easy way to figure out the kosher type. Take a look at the animal. If it regurgitates, if it's mala gera, then you know biadua she'en la shanayim lamala, that it's lacking frontal upper jaw teeth, which are only needed when the animal does not regurgitate, because then it needs to digest it better, chew it better the first time. But the malaskera type of animal doesn't need that extra set of teeth, and it's kosher tahira. Okay, so these things are sort of linked; they're synonymous. Malaskera equals no teeth, which equals tahara. Ask the Gemara, really? Is that a set absolute formula? Uklalahu, that a klal? That malagera with no teeth means that he's tahar? In the psukim there, the Torah does give us exceptions. Typically, right, if a behema has those 2 signs, the malagera, mafis paras, that's okay, but there are 3 exceptions. There are some that are like the camel, like the shafan, the hare, the arneves, the rabbit. They are malagera and still tamei. On the other hand, you have the chazir, we'll see later, who's mafis parasa, split hooves, and is tamei as well. So how do you set such a rule? Uklalahu? Very good. We'll take a look at a camel. The malagerahu, it has that. It's lacking those teeth, and he's still tamei. But tamei. Well, so the Gemara gamal, although he doesn't have a proper set of upper teeth on the front of his jaw, but nivi islay, he has the canines, 2 sharp teeth, 1 on either side, which compensate. So he's in. Ask the Gemara very ben gamal, but a young camel, which hasn't yet developed those canines, those nivi nami less, he doesn't have it. And he's a malageri, he's still tamei. Apparently your formula is not an absolute formula. Next question. What about the shafan and narnevis? The Torah itself tells us, V'su hare shafan, var nevis. Those 2 animals, the malaskera and their malagera, v'yesh lehen shnuayim lamala. So the malagera, and they still have the teeth. Utmein and they're tamei. So apparently these things are not linked to each other. You can have malagera with the teeth. Void, furthermore, who's to say that teeth or lack of teeth are any indication of status? Void, shenayim, teeth. Miksivi b'raisa. Is there any mention of teeth in the Torah as a sign of kosher? Ella. So due to these questions, the Gemara revises the intent of the Bryce. Ella chikam. The Bryce meant like this. Kol behema she'ela shenayim l'mal. We start the other way. If you notice, no teeth. V'yadua she malaskir. Then you know for sure he's a malaskir. Uma first says pars. V'tahir and he's tahir. So it goes the other way. Lack of frontal upper jaw teeth indicate that he's a kosher animal. He's certainly malagera, he's certainly mafres pars, and he's tar, provided that you see that he's not a camel, he's not a young camel. So that's discounted. Everything else with this type of quality is going to be tar. Ask the Gemara, why do you have to guess around? Just check the hooves. If you see split hooves, then you know that he's tar, because if you have split hooves, then certainly it goes together with malagera. Says the Gemara, was speaking that he can't really tell because the hooves are gone, they've been severed. Its parses were cut off, so you can't really discern. The next best way is to determine based on his teeth content. Lack of teeth indicate malagera, which indicate mafres parsa and tahar. As per Rav Chizda's piece of advice, the Rav Chizda, a fellow is on the road in the wilderness, and he encounters a behemoth which is not familiar to him. It's not a cow, it's not a regular sheep, and he wants to know whether it's kosher. He finds a behemoth with cut off hooves. What does he do? By the grafia. Okay, next best. Take a look at the mouth. There are no upper frontal jaw teeth. He knows it's kosher, as we said before. But otherwise, if it has teeth, then he knows it's tummy. Now, lack of teeth are only considered a confirmation of purity if, in fact, this is not going to be a camel. Well, Vachiyakir Gomel is provided that he discounts this as a camel. He knows this is not a camel. So once that's off the table, we assume an animal with no teeth is going to be tar as mentioned. Says the Gemara, Gomel Nivi Islay. Why are we concerned about a camel? If it would be a camel, you would have the canines. And you would see that. Ella Bavat Sheyakir Ben Gomel. No, the concern is that he might have encountered a young, undeveloped camel, which doesn't have the canines. In that case, even if it's lacking teeth, it can still be tamei, unless he's certain that this is not from the camel family, in which case, lack of teeth indicate tahara. Says the Gemara, who says? Maybe just like there is an exception with the camel, maybe there's another species that we're not aware of that has no teeth and it's still going to be tamei. Lav Amris, haven't you told me Ika ben Gomel, there's this phenomenon of this young camel, no teeth and still tamei? Maybe there's another min achrina, the dam of the ben Gomel, which is similar to the ben Gomel, which is tamei despite the lack of teeth. We can't suggest that there are more exceptions. Because, as we explained, there's certainly a direct link between the lack of these teeth and the malagera characteristic of the animal, right? So here we have an animal that he finds in the desert, no teeth, which means he's malagera. Does that mean he's tahar? So the answer is unless he's one of those three exceptions that the Torah listed for us: the camel, the shafan, the arneves, which despite being malagera are still tamei. So unless this one is one of those, he's okay. There are no other exceptions. We can't suggest this concern. The Tani, Tvei Shmuel, as he teaches us, Ves hagamol ki mala gerahu. So which mala gera can we not eat? The gamol, and also the shafan, the arneves. And Hashem knows what's going on. Shalit ba'olam, Hashem who controls the world, created the world. Yeah, He knows full and well what the exceptions are, and He pointed them out to us, indicating that we're limited to that list. He knows she'en lecha davar malagera. There's no other animal that is going to be a malagera and still be v'tami elogam, except for the gamul and the other two, like we mentioned, which are listed in the parsha. Lefichach paras be'akosav hu. That's why the pasuk adds the word hu, malagera hu. Only these are exceptions. There are no other exceptions. So now you're safe. So bottom line is like this. If you can tell straightforward, split hooves, etc., then you're good. But let's say you can't. Hooves are gone. Unidentifiable. So you take a close look at the mouth. If in the upper jaw in the front, he doesn't have teeth, if that's synonymous with malagera, because he has the added digestive process, he doesn't need those extra teeth, which indicate that it's tar, provided you're not the gomel, shafan, or arnevis. Another piece of advice for a fellow traveling out in the wilderness. He's on the road to Motzah Behema Shapir Gomel. He encounters a behema with a mutilated mouth. You can't really tell what's going on in terms of the teeth or lack of. So what's the next formula that he can use? Boidek parshanut. So this time he has hooves. Okay, so he checks the hooves. If they're split, he knows the animal is good. In parshanut shadukos, if his feet are split, that confirms that it's tahor. Otherwise, then he knows it's tummy. Provided he knows it's not a chazir, a swine, because he's that one exception who has split hooves despite being non-kosher. Says the Gemara, maybe there are other exceptions as well. Just like you tell me there's a chazir to be concerned about, perhaps there's another species, the dam chazir, which has similar features to a chazir. So split hooves perhaps doesn't confirm anything. Well, once again, the fact that the Torah only singles out the chazir as an exception indicates that is the one and only exception in this category. You can't suggest a concern. The Talmud Bavli, as we learned in the yeshiva of Rabbi Shmuel, that's a chazir kimafris parsahu. Keep away from the chazir despite his split hooves. Shal ba'olam yadei Hashem who created the world knows she'en l'cha davar shemafris parsa v'tami. There is no other animal with this feature, that is mafris parsa and still tummy, except ella chazir, except for the chazir. Lefichach paras be'akosav hu. That's why it says who, this and none else. Here's a third aspect to this discussion. Rav Chizda, he's on the road and he has no indication, not from the mouth and not from the hooves. He encounters a behema whose mouth is unidentifiable, and as well the hooves. So you can't check the mouth or the hooves. What do you do now? There's a third option. Do the shechita and then check its flesh. Boidek bibsara. There's a telltale sign. In a certain area, by the shank bone in the back, by the tail area, a certain piece there, if the grain is going crisscrossing back and forth, then you know it's a toher animal. But otherwise, you know it's not kosher. Again, provided he can identify the aroid, the wild donkey, which is non-kosher, despite having this crisscross feature. So if he knows this one is not an aroid, he discounts that off the table. And now he knows he's kosher. Well, says the one, maybe there are other exceptions. Lav amras ikaroid, just like you're telling me about the aroid, who's an exception. Ikonami mina achrina, the damil aroid perhaps is another exception, which is similar to the aroid. Community the we have a Kabbalah tradition, and there is no other exception. Now, where's he going to look for this crisscrossing piece of meat? Back in the by the tail area, but kanfia oikets, back by the tailbone. Okay, so bottom line is, what are the simanim of a behema nechaya? Primarily there are two, as stated in the Torah. Mafres parsa, split hooves, and malagera, it chews its cud. Now, if you can't really tell, what's an easy way to tell? We take a look at the teeth. Then you know he's okay, provided this is not a camel, a shafan, or a neves. Or alternatively, you take a look at these split hooves. As long as it's not a chazir, you know he's good. Because once he has that, he has the other siman as well. None of the above applies. You take a look at that specific cut of meat, and if it runs Shasi ve'erev, you know you're okay. Continues the Gemara, Simonei Chaya. So in general, what makes a behema kosher makes a chaya kosher as well. Split hooves and choose its cut. But there's a difference between the chaya and the behema. Regarding the chela, a behema has forbidden fat content. Since it's meant for the mizbeach, it's not meant to be eaten by an ordinary person, as opposed to the chaya, whose same material, the same fat, is mutter. It's not meant for the mizbeach. Chaya is not to be used for a carbon, right? Its fat is mutter. Now, how do you differentiate between this family and that family? And behema and chaya are very close in nature and appearance. How do you delineate the difference? How do you differentiate? Okay, Simonei Chaya. Tanu Rabbanan. We have a brayso. Elohen Simonei Chaya. Here comes the signs, kosher signs of a chaya. Before we got a chance to conclude our statement, asks the Gemara, what do you mean? Why a new set of kosher signs for a chaya? Chaya b'chlal behemahi l'simanin. Regarding kosher signs, the same signs that apply to a behema, malagera, mafres parsa, apply to the chaya as well. Right? We have a psukim, right? So it's a chaya shetoichlu, the same idea. First is parsa, shas shesa. Omar b'zeir, no, we're talking about permitting its fat. How do we classify chaya? Omar b'zeir, return to Talmud Bavli, lahater chelba. How do we determine this to be a chaya regarding permitting its fat for consumption? The brayso means like this. Of course, to permit the meat, we apply the same rule as the behema. Offers parsa, malagir. But how do you know it's a chaya versus a behema to permit its fat? As follows: Kol sheyesh la karnayim u'tlafayim. This beast has horns and hooves. We'll get to that in a minute. Unique horns, different than a behema's horn. It's enough that you confirm its horns to be a chaya horn. And once that's determined, you don't have to seek the hooves, because you know that he's going to be a kosher variety. Okay, so even if you can't find the hooves that are cut off, whatever, you can't confirm that it has split hooves. These unique features found in the kosher chaya's horns confirm not only that it's a chaya, confirm that it's a kosher chaya. On the other hand, yesh lo tlafayim. Even if you confirm split hooves, tzarech hata lachzor al kanayim. So even though you confirm that it has split hooves and it's a kosher chaya, but who says it's a chaya? Maybe it's a behema. Who says you can eat the fat? For that, you have to go back to the horns to confirm that it's a chaya. So two things are needed. First of all, confirm that it's kosher, and confirm that it's a chaya. The brayso continues with keresh. There was a special, unique beast called a keresh, a unicorn. Even though it only has one horn, very different than your standard, it's still a chaya and it's still a mutter. Okay, says the Gemara. It seems from the brayso, any beast featuring horns and hooves is a confirmed chaya tahira. Klalahu, is that a rule? Is that a reliable formula? Klalahu? Already A's. Take a look at your local goat. Yesh lekarnaim tlafayim, it has horns and hooves, and it's still a behema v'chal b'it ta'asar. Krucha is bein. The answer is like this: not just a regular horn. It has to be ring layered, working its way up layer by layer, right? Like rings on top of each other. So that's the sign of a chaya horn, which of course a goat doesn't have. It's more like uniform, a singular entity, whereas by a chaya, it's like rings stacked on each other. Okay, what about a bull? The kruchais, whose horns are layered, and he's still classified as behema, v'chal be'asr, nechel b'zasr, charuka is be'inan. Oh, we need one more feature on the horns of a chaya. Charuka is grooved, which a bull doesn't have. Already A's. What about the A's, the goat, the charuka is, whose horns are grooved, and you've told me it's still a behema, v'chal be'in, nechel b'zasr, v'futzal is be'inan. Third condition, the horns have to be branchy, like a deer, right? Says the Gemara about tzvi. What about the tzvi? And interestingly, Rashi says it's not what we call a tzvi. We're accustomed to relating to a deer as a tzvi. Rashi says it's a steinbuck, like a wild goat, different type of variety. Very tzvi, the imfutzeles, whose horns are not branched, so it can't be a deer. Rashi says our deer have branched horns. So whatever this tzvi is, it doesn't have branched horns. Mutter, and his chaylev is okay because he's a chayos. You see, that's not a requirement. Says the marchadurois ba'inan. There's another condition. Chadurois. Chadurois means they're round, as opposed to like like more squarish and symmetrical. They're like round, like a tube. So that also indicates chaya, and that's what the tzvi has. So bottom line is like this: you don't need you don't need the horns to have all four features. Let's see. Chadur is being hilkach. Therefore, hilkach heichadam iftzela. There are some, features that are way heavier than others. If it's branchy, loy din loy daina. There's no discussion. There's no din. There's no daina. There's no discussion. It's a clear chaya. So that factor weighs heavier than the rest. If you have that, you're good. On the other hand, heichad lo miftzela. If it's not nofutzel like the tzvi, so you're missing that. As long as you have the other three features, be'inan kruchos, it needs to be layered, chaduros, round, v'charukos, grooved. And the tzvi has that, so he's a chaya. V'hu demivlach erkai. Now we speak about groove, there has to be like lots of grooves, intersecting each other. V'hainu sveka de'ize charkos. So because of this list of requirements, there is a suffix that's triggered uncertainty regarding a special, unique goat called the Izo Charkos. Rashi explains, because he has Chaduros, he has Charukos. But the thing is that he's called an A's. He's called an A's. So by way of his name, it would indicate that he's from the behema family, like an A's, like a goat, which is a behema. So that triggers this uncertainty, and hard to confirm exactly which family he belongs to. Okay, now, just go back a second. Rashi explains the need for all these features to confirm that he's a chaya. Why? You see, you need to be charuka, is grooved, and that sets you apart from the bull. The bull is not grooved. You also need to be chaduros, which is the more like a roundy, tubey shape, as opposed to the goat, whose horns are more like flat and symmetrical. Kruchos, which is the layered, stacked design, that also is to contrast it from the goat. So basically, all these characteristics are meant to set this beast apart from those other animals which are classified as behema, despite having, one or more of these features. So once you have them all together, all three. So if it's branched, it's certainly not a behema, because no behemoths have that. But if you're not branched, your horns have to present all these characteristics, which rules out any type of behema and confirms you as a chaya. because otherwise, like we said, some of these characteristics are found by behemoths. But if you have them all together, that's unique. That certainly points to the chaya nature of this beast. Continues the Gemara, he's a carcass. And so in fact, there was this sort of semi-goat, the Avoy Beirish Galusa, which was in the household of the head of the exile, the head of community in Bavli. In any case, they shechted it. So it's certainly kosher, but it's either a behema, whose chaylev is asur, or a chaya, whose chaylev is mutar. Of course, they pulled out molei sana, the tarba, a full bucket of fat, mina, from this beast. And the question was, if it's kosher. So what happened? Rav Achai asar, he forbade it. Shouldn't eat it. Rav Shmuel breder Ravo achaminei. On the other hand, Rav Shmuel breder Ravo helped himself from this fat. Karan Avshen, he applied to himself the pasuk. If you know what you're doing, then you could eat and you enjoy. Pre ish tis babitna. You can satiate yourself. Pre ish, because of his ability to determine and to paskin and to rule that it was okay. So all the gain. Okay, shalcha mitam. There was a message sent from Eretz Yisrael regarding this matter. In fact, the halacha follows the second opinion that it's mutter, because this beast is really a chaya. But don't negate Rabbi Avo's opinion, his strict opinion. Don't negate it. Don't negate his opinion. Treat him with respect. Don't permit it in front of him. In spite of it. He's such a great man. He enlightens the eyes of the generation, of the Golos, of the community in Bavli. Basically, he's a great man, and we have to accord him proper covet, proper respect. So even though the halacha is otherwise, but Rashi says, try to convince him and but don't be matir in front of him. Don't actually consider it kosher in his presence, in spite of his, V'keresh, Karen, achas mutter. What about this single horn beast? Even though it's just a single horn, it's mutter. Rabbi Yehuda. Whoever saw this animal, keresh, this keresh has another name. Tavia, it's like a deer, the bay Eloi, from this forest called Eloi. What is a tigris? Tigris comes from the word tiger, perhaps, a big beast. Has another name for it. Arya, it's the lion, the bay Eloi, from this forest bay Eloi. And it's a real impressive beast. Here goes. Amar Rav Kahana, Teisham Hasa. You know how big this Arya is, this tigris? There is a total of 9 amos. Huge area. Havi ben una le'una, between one ear and the other. So basically his head is so wide of this lion, the Arya of the lion, the Beiloi. Amar Rabbi Yosef, Shitzer am Hasa, have a mashcha, the Tavi Beiloi. The mashcha, the skin, the hide, peeled off from the Tavi Beiloi, is humongous. It's Shitzer am Hasa, 16 amos long. That's how big they are. Amar le Keis Rabbi Shimon Chanani. We find throughout Shas that the Roman ruler would engage Rabbi Shimon Chanani in discussion, debate, and although on the surface it appears perhaps like just trivial discussion, but the Mepharshim explain that there is a deeper meaning behind it. There's the debate, kinds of religious tenets, and about Hashgacha Pratis, which the Goyim didn't believe in, and etc., etc. Amar le Keis Rabbi Shimon Chanani. Alekeichem k'arya masal. Your Hashem is compared to a lion, right? A mashal of a lion. D'chsiv, as the pasuk says, Arye yishag m'layira, right? Just like when a lion roars, everybody's gripped with fear. Likewise, when Hashem speaks, similar effect. What's the big deal? Comparing Hashem to a lion? A lion is just an animal, parsha. Any hunter. You can kill a lion. What's the big deal? Amar Leis, he says, no, lav kai ari muscle. You think he's compared to a regular lion? No, ka'ari devei loy muscle. He's compared to this grand lion that we discussed before. Amar Leis, he says, wow, you intrigued me. But the mirsis le. I'd like you to give me a tour. Show me that lion. Amar Leis says, no, le matzas chazla. You can't see him. It's too overwhelming. Amar Leis, he says, Ibra Chazina, I insist. I want to see it. You have to show him to me. Ibra Chazina le. Okay, boy, Rachmi, so Rabbi Shimon Chanan daven to Hashem is Akim Miduchtei in this line, left his den, and he started coming closer. When he was all about 400 parsa away, that's pretty far. He gave one roar, one single roar, and the whole place trembled. Apilu, they almost carried. All the carrying women miscarried. Vishuri, the wall of Rome, Nafal, collapsed. That's how powerful a roar it was. And the Marchaklas Meir Parsa, when he got closer, he was only 300 parsa away. Niyam Kalachrina gave another roar. Nasser Kacha Vishini, the guy, everybody's teeth fell out. Vafu, and even the king, Nafal Mekursaya, Lari fell off his throne down to the floor. Amalei says, okay, enough is enough. Amalei, he tells Rabbi Yeshua Chanani, keep him away. Matusa Minach, please, I beg you. Boy Rachman, please daven. On this animal, they should make a U-turn and go back home. Lahadlu Duchtei should go back to his place. Boy Rachman Alei, so Rabbi Shua Chanani daven. Vahadlu Asrei, and in fact, he made his way back home, and the king did without it. Okay, so we discussed careful eating a balanced diet. We discussed how Rab was saved at the last moment by Shmuel, who was Kol Raz Loi Anaslei. The standard Simon Behema B'chaya, the Mafreses Parsa Malagera. We have Reb Chiz's keys, his formulas, in case you can't, in case you're on the road, and so he gives you these tricks to determine kashrus. We have the Simanim, what sets a Chaya apart from a Behema in terms of his unique horns, and we had some discussion regarding Shon Hanani with the Kesar about the Ari de Beiloi, which was connected to the Tavi de Beiloi, which was that questionable sort of goat, which turned out to be kosher due to the fact that he's a Chaya. The fat was kosher due to the fact that he was a Chaya. Okay, all the best to you, and Atzlacha Rab.